Inside the world of Grand Theft Auto, crime is brutally competitive. From ruthless hitmen to men powerful enough to control entire cities, this is a reverse iceberg of the GTA 10 Most Wanted characters explained. Level 7. Most Brutal. Number 1. Trevor Phillips. Trevor Phillips doesn't fit into any clear category. He isn't part of organized crime, a cartel, or any clear ideology. Instead, he operates in a way that makes him almost impossible to predict, which is what makes him more dangerous. Investigators who have studied his file at length suggest his own words recorded during the surveillance operation conducted in 2013 is less than a proverb and more of a threat, a statement from a man who has decided that consequences are other people's problem. But that pattern didn't start later in life. Trevor Phillips was born in Canada, near the United States border, and his early years were marked by severe instability. His father was absent, and his mother, described by those who knew her as manipulative and inconsistent, created an environment that made it difficult for him to develop emotional control. As a result, he showed extreme behavioral problems from a young age, moving repeatedly between foster homes and juvenile detention. Eventually, he was noticed by the Canadian military, which interpreted his unpredictability differently and recruited him to the Air Force with the intention of training him for bomber missions. In that environment, he progressed quickly, and his performance placed him well above average across all official assessments. Even among those who later worked with him in criminal circles, he is still regarded as an unusually gifted aviator. Despite this, he was discharged before completing active service.
But he could fly planes, this kid. So he signed up to the Air Force to fly all day long and bomb villages and maybe, just maybe, drop the nuke. And it was all going well until one day, just before he got his wings, an evil witch in charge of psychological evaluations told him he was unstable, grounded him for life. That's terrible. It was. Sent him into a deep pit of doubt and despair.
The institution that trained and armed him released him into the civilian population with no meaningful follow-up or support. Following his discharge, Phillips drifted into petty crime along the Canada-US border, where he met Michael Townley, later Michael DeSanta, a career thief operating in the same area. The first known collaboration involved the violent disposal of a security guard, with Phillips shooting a flare gun directly into the man's eye socket. After that, they formed a robbery crew with Brad Snyder and carried out a series of bank heists across the Midwest. The group proved effective, with Townley handling planning while Phillips escalated situations through force, making them dangerous to oppose. But the partnership ended in 2004 during a failed job in North Yankton, where Snyder was killed and Townley faked his death through a deal with federal authorities. Believing both partners were dead, Phillips fled to Blaine County, where he remained for the next 9 years, increasingly isolated and unstable. What Phillips built in Blaine County during those 9 years was a working criminal operation. Trevor Phillips Enterprises ran out of Sandy Shores as a meth and arms network, and the people around him were not partners, but people who stayed out of fear. Ron Weston, a conspiracy-obsessed associate, remained close to him largely because of that. He later broke into a fortified Merriweather security compound to steal a military-grade device, retrieved the target, and left despite their firepower and response strength. He was also involved in the torture of a government informant, Ferdinand Karimov, at the request of a federal intelligence agency, before later threatening the same agency that authorized it.
It shouldn't be legal! Oh, don't do it! It's torture! Not...
Look at me. I am a genuine government man. It's all in your head, Ferdinand. Don't worry.
He's wet, all right. Let up.
In other incidents, he stole a military jet from an active base and kidnapped the wife of cartel figure Martin Madrazo, triggering cartel retaliation. Witnesses also reported killings linked to minor disputes, perceived disrespect, or no clear reason at all. Multiple agencies have had opportunities to apprehend Trevor Phillips, but none have succeeded in holding him in custody. His background as a former military pilot and his willingness to escalate force make him difficult to contain once engaged, especially in uncontrolled environments. While Trevor was completely unpredictable, relying on brute force, the next level is characters who combine their destructive capabilities with careful planning, making them some of the most dangerous characters on the list. Level 6. Unclassifiable, no off switch. Number 2. Michael Bryce Townley. Michael Bryce Townley, born in the American Midwest state of North Yankton, is not by fear or chaos or spectacle. Instead, he operates through calculation. quiet kind of control that makes him harder to see coming. In 1988, he pulled off his first known robbery, stealing $10,000 from a small business near Carcer City, and was already arrested twice by the age 23. But that was just the beginning, as his activities soon expanded into bank robberies, drug smuggling, and running a prostitution ring. He was so comfortable exploiting the people around him, he even invested in his wife Amanda's breast implants to boost her stripping work. As his criminal life expanded, he crossed paths with Trevor Phillips, a criminal working in the same area, and together, they went on to commit several violent and serious crimes. But after numerous robberies, heists, and operations, Michael started to get tired. Around the same time, in 2004, he met a corrupt FIB agent, Dave Norton, and decided to make a deal with him. He'd pay Dave a monthly 5-figure amount, cut ties with Trevor and Brad. In exchange, Dave would relocate Michael and his family to Los Santos and provide them with new identities to start over. Working with Dave, Michael used the Ludendorff heist as his planned escape. During the robbery, he, Trevor Phillips, and Brad Snyder hit a cash facility in North Yankton, but the job was set up so Michael could fake his death. Trevor would disappear, and Brad would take the fall.
Give it up! I got him! I saw your face, I'll remember you.
You get 1,000 things every day. How about you make sure this is one of them?
I've seen his eyes! He's crazy! You didn't have to do that! Let's get going! There'll be time for grieving later!
However, things did not go fully as planned. Even so, Michael successfully cut ties with his old life and disappeared to start over under a new identity.
I'm gonna check around back. Ah! Ah! The fucking bed! Someone must have fucking talked!
Alright, Brad's gonna be fine. We gotta get this out of here. I'm hit! Oh, Jesus! Key, you gotta get out of here!
I'm gonna leave you, Mikey!
Go! God, I'm not gonna make it. I'm fucking gonna bleed out. Go!
No!
Years later, in 2013, Michael crossed paths with Franklin Clinton during a repossession job. The encounter pulled Franklin into Michael's world and marked the beginning of their partnership.
What? That the place?
Yeah, this the place, man.
Whoa. Drive into it. Right through the fucking window. And fast. Or I'll put 2 rounds in the back of your skull and do it myself.
Man, you can't be for real.
I look like a fucking joke to you.
Man, fuck my life.
But what really pushed him to return to crime was when he caught his wife having an affair.
Amanda! Amanda! You better not be! Not in my house.
F you, Michael, go away!
I'm paying that turd $150 an hour to f my wife in my own bed?
Michael, go away!
Oh, I'm sorry, bro. She said you had an arrangement.
You and I are gonna have an arrangement. I'm gonna arrange your funeral.
I'm really sorry, bro.
Feeling betrayed, he destroyed a luxury mansion he believed belonged to the other man. The property was later revealed to belong to cartel boss Martin Madrazo. The destruction placed Michael in massive debt, forcing him to return to professional robbery to repay the damage and avoid cartel retaliation. To make money quickly, Michael planned to rob the Vangelico jewelry store with Franklin Clinton and hired a crew carrying out an armed takeover that involved stealing high-value jewelry, controlling civilians inside the store, and fighting through a violent escape from the police. The methods used during the robbery closely resembled the Ludendorff heist committed years earlier, which quickly put him on the news and directly on the radars of multiple law agencies such as the FBI and IAA. Following this exposure from the Vangelico robbery, Michael came under pressure from the corrupt FIB agent Steve Haynes and agent Dave Norton, who forced him into carrying out illegal operations for them, including sabotage, theft of classified information, and attacks against the IAA, pushing his criminal activities beyond traditional robbery. During one of those operations, Michael joins Trevor and Franklin in kidnapping Ferdinand Kerimov, an FIB-associated agent, and an Azerbaijani suspect connected to an IAA investigation. While Steve Haynes oversaw the mission, Trevor violently interrogated and tortured Kerimov for intelligence with Michael's assistance. Michael was also tasked with the armed infiltration of the FIB headquarters to destroy incriminating files connected to Steve Haynes and Dave Norton. Federal agents responded to the breach, but Michael and his crew successfully escaped after extracting the data and removing discriminating evidence, placing him among the highest priority fugitives operating in Los Santos. But the scale of his operation rose significantly when Michael later became involved in robberies targeting Merryweather Security Consulting. These operations involved stealing military-grade equipment, intercepting covert cargo, and engaging heavily armed security forces. That escalation continued during the robbery of the Blaine County Savings Bank in Paleto Bay, where Michael, Trevor, and Franklin carried out the armed heist, leading to a prolonged shootout with local police, federal units, and military forces as they fought to escape the town. However, the peak of his career was during the Union Depository robbery. Michael led planning alongside Trevor, Franklin, and Lester Crest, and the crew successfully stole hundreds of millions of dollars in gold through a highly coordinated operation involving armored transport interception, heavy equipment, and large-scale logistical planning. Back in crime in Los Santos, Michael DeSanta returned with a degree of planning and instructional knowledge that placed him among the most dangerous heist conductors in recent memory. And while law enforcement tried multiple times to try to catch him, Michael always planned a step ahead, successfully escaping every time. Those same qualities would shape the rise of the next character in this list, Michael's own protege, who went from being a small-time hustler to taking part in some of the biggest heists and criminal operations in the city. Number 3. Franklin Clinton. Franklin was born in South Los Santos in 1988, growing up in poverty and surrounded by gang violence and with a rough family life. He wasn't as reckless as Trevor Phillips and wasn't as planned out and controlled as Michael DeSanta. Instead, he was somewhere in between, smart enough to survive the streets he came from, but also quick to adapt to situations far beyond them. Expelled from Davis High School, he joined the Chamberlain gangster families as a young gangbanger with best friend Lamar Davis, committing petty crimes like hustling and small thefts. However, in 2013, Franklin moved beyond the role of street dealer when he and Lamar began working with an American businessman named Simeon Yetarian, repossessing vehicles for his dealership. During one of these repossessions, Franklin and Lamar were ambushed by members of the Ballas, forcing them into a violent escape that turned into a drive-by shootout through the streets of Los Santos. Not long after, the two also jacked cars and bikes from Vagos gang members, killing 11, including the owner of the bike they were supposed to retrieve. Lamar then kept the bike for himself, and with the mission falling apart, Franklin took the blame for Simeon and ended up losing his repo job. That setback led him to Michael DeSanta, whom he had crossed paths with while on a mission to repossess an SUV.
That the place?
Yeah, this the place, man.
Whoa. Drive into it. Right through the fucking window. And fast. Or I'll put 2 rounds in the back of your skull and do it myself.
Man, you can't be for real.
I look like a fucking joke to you.
Man, my life, man.
Michael saw potential in Franklin and pulled him into a much bigger world of crime. What started as small hustles quickly turned into major robberies and high-stakes heists. He became involved in jobs like the Vangelico jewelry store heist, the Belito Bay bank robbery, the Union Depository score, and even off-the-books operations for Steve Haynes, including the armored IAA vehicle robbery. He also delivered stolen sports cars for Devin Weston while evading the LSPD, raided a lab for a dangerous chemical, and helped destroy Martin Madrazo's house after Michael's earlier mistakes caused problems with him. Through Michael, Franklin was also introduced to Trevor and Lester Crest, and once Trevor entered the picture, things became far more unpredictable.
All you ever did was ignore them, and now that they're gone, you miss them. F***ing incredible. I'll tell you what's incredible. F***ing incredible. You mother... Hey! Why not?
You got me out here. You roped me into your crazy world of bullshit. If it was lies, new age shit, and arguments about how good life used to be, I could have stayed my ass in Los Santos.
Hello, Franklin.
What's up?
Courier service. Package to collect.
Sample?
Now we talking. My throat getting numb already.
So we good, nigga, right? Well, let's go.
How about a taste?
No, man, we leaving.
I want a taste of the other side of the brick.
Now you heard what your boy said, you're leaving.
Hey, give me the back! Whoa.
What the f***?
Did we ask for a key or a f***ing ounce?
Man, that's motherfucking drywall. Hey, we got some motherfucking buyer's remorse out here.
You can't hustle a hustler!
Franklin quickly moved from small repo jobs and street hustles into major organized crime. Through Michael and Trevor, he became involved in high-level robberies, government operations, and jobs that put him on the radar of both gangs and federal agencies.
Man, you can say whatever you want about Trevor, but shit, he got it done.
Yep, let's hope so.
Hey, is that Lester? What? Hey, man, what the f*** you doing here?
You should be in bed.
Yes, I should be. I would be if certain known associates weren't busy making themselves enemies of the state. The FIB, Merryweather, IAA, you can f with them all day long. But when you try and steal an experimental super weapon and sell it to the Chinese, you and everyone you ever knew is gonna be f***ed in the ass, you chumps!
Hold on, man. A super weapon? The Chinese, what?
What'd you think is in there?
I thought he talked to you.
Each job pushed him further from street crime and deeper into the kind of operations that made him a serious target for law enforcement. And as the pressure built, Franklin was eventually ordered by Devin Weston to kill Michael, while Stephen Haynes pushed him to eliminate Trevor. But instead of choosing either side, Franklin worked with Lester, Michael, and Trevor to remove all threats at once, taking down their enemies and ending Devin Weston for good. Franklin Clinton learned fast, played it smart, and climbed higher than anyone expected. But the next one didn't rise through mentorship or luck. It came from war, and in his world, survival was never optional. Number 4. Niko Bellic. Niko was never a kingpin, a cartel boss, or some criminal mastermind trying to build an empire. He was a soldier who never really stopped being one. Born in Yugoslavia to a Serbian family, he came to Liberty City carrying the habits of war with him, and in a city built on crime, that made him the kind of man people were willing to use but could never truly control. He arrived through his cousin Roman, hoping for a better life. But Roman's debts and bad decisions pulled him straight into the Russian criminal world. In this dangerous new setting, his first contact was Vladimir Glebov, a small-time operator who quickly saw that Niko was far more useful as muscle than his family. At first, the work was simple. Collect unpaid debts, track people down, scare them, and if fear didn't work, use violence. But Niko handled intimidation like routine, and what started as debt collection quickly turned into something much darker. A man named Mikhail Fostin entered the picture, and he was unstable, paranoid, and far more dangerous than Vladimir. After taking over, he spared Niko and pulled him deeper into his operation.
Making all that noise to find out he's his cousin. Where did you find this idiot?
He was a friend of your sergeant when we were in Vladivostok.
He's an imbecile. So, Niko Bellic, you think it's okay to kill my employees?
If he is an a**hole, yes.
Do it! I agree. Now look at me like I'm a piece of shit.
Боже мой.
Now listen, Niko Bellic. You are very lucky Vlad was an idiot. The only reason I keep him around is because I f***ed his sister. Look at me. You owe me. I got some digheads in my neighborhood trying to run a shipment, yeah?
And we found a buyer for the TVs.
Yes, a buyer. But you've got to get them for us so we can make the sale.
Under Faustin, the work shifted from intimidation to executions. Niko carried out assassinations in public places, private homes, and guarded compounds. Rival crews, loose ends, and witnesses all ended the same way. If Faustin wanted a problem erased, Niko was the one sent to do it. He also moved into armed enforcement, storming rival locations, backing drug operations, and handling violent cleanup for criminal businesses. By that point, he had become one of the most efficient killers inside Liberty City's underworld. Eventually, even Mikhail Faustin became too unstable for the people around him. His partner Dmitry Raskolov ordered Niko Bellic to eliminate him, and after Faustin threatened Niko's cousin, Roman Bellic, Niko carried it out without hesitation.
Right! Betrayed by Dimitri and by you! Too kind! That's what I was! Too kind! I let the snakes into the nest and they destroyed everything!
For a short time, Dmitry looked like the safer path, but that ended during a deal where Dmitry betrayed him and arranged for Niko to be killed. Niko survived the ambush, and from that moment on, he turned into a constant threat to Dmitry's entire network, dismantling warehouses, docks, and operations one by one, at the same time he worked for almost anyone powerful enough to pay or useful enough to help. With Little Jacob, he protected drug deals, recovered stolen shipments, and removed threats to distribution. With a United Liberty paper contact, a government figure hiding behind a paper company, he carried out political nations in exchange for protection and information. But what made Niko Bellic a high-priority target and kept him on law enforcement watch lists was the scale and repetition of his involvement in armed crimes. One of the biggest operations came during the Liberty City bank robbery with Patrick McCreary. The crew stormed the bank, held civilians at gunpoint, emptied the vault, and once police surrounded the area, The escape turned into open war. Nico fought through waves of LCPD officers in the streets and alleyways, using automatic gunfire to clear a path and escape with his share of the money. After that, he moved deeper into the Pegorino family under Jimmy Pegorino, handling more assassinations and enforcement jobs while still tracking Dimitri. In the end, Nico eliminated Dimitri in a final shootout, collapsing what was left of his network. But by then, Niko Bellic was already known to law enforcement as a repeat high-risk offender tied to armed robberies, gang warfare, and multiple large-scale violent incidents across Liberty City.
Welcome to America. Speak English. You're a strange man. You your best friend. You betrayed everyone who ever came in contact with you. You killed my cousin. I guess the survival of the fittest thing really meant a lot to you.
Come on, Nick, come on, get on here, let's go. Come on.
Niko Bellic arrived with experience carved from conflict, a man who'd already seen what survival costs and was still willing to pay for it. However, the next level goes beyond personal scores and missions entirely, expanding to city-scale operations, the kind of men who didn't just live in these cities, but owned them. Level 5. City-scale operators, war trauma killers, heist masterminds. Number 5. Tommy Vercetti. Tommy Vercetti was born in Liberty City around 1951, and his arrival in Vice City wasn't meant to build anything, but to carry out a job and leave. The people who sent him there expected control, but they underestimated what would have happened when he was left alone in a city where he had nothing to lose and everything to prove. In the early 1970s, the Forelli crime family sent him to Liberty City to carry out a hit. What followed became known as the Harwood Massacre, where Tommy killed multiple men in a single incident, survived the ambush, and eliminated everyone involved. This immediately made him the most wanted target in the list of Liberty City Police Department. The scale of the atrocity earned him the nickname the Harwood Butcher. He was arrested shortly after and put in prison, where he spent 15 years, taking the fall alone while the Forellis walked free.
Completely surrounded. Get down, asshole! Keep your arms on your head. Stupid cops!
When he got out in 1986, Sonny Forelli sent him to Vice City to oversee a deal. Over there, he worked under lawyer Ken Rosenberg, who arranged a deal at the docks.
Hey guys, it's Ken Rosenberg here. Hey, great, hey. Well, I'm gonna drive you guys to the meet, okay? Now, I've talked to the suppliers, and they are very keen to start a business relationship. So, if all goes well, we should be doing very nicely for ourselves, which is, you know, good.
But the deal was ambushed. Armed attackers opened fire, and Harry, Lee, and one of the drug dealers were killed, while Tommy was forced to retreat. The cocaine and the money were also gone. Sonny wanted answers, and pressure built on Tommy. To trace what happened, Tommy partnered with Lance Vance, whose brother was killed in the same ambush. Together, they tracked targets across the city and killed them, each operation pulling more information to work with. While doing that, Tommy worked for power players. Under Colonel Cortez, he handled protection and recovery jobs. Under Ricardo Diaz, he moved into higher-level drug operations, acting as enforcer and middleman, but everything changed when Tommy discovered Diaz was behind the original ambush. Because of that, he and Lance stormed Diaz's mansion, fought through his guards, and Tommy killed him personally. With Diaz dead, Tommy took over his mansion, his drug business, and his influence. From there, he stopped working for other people. He built his own empire through drug routes, extortion, and money laundering, removing anyone who got in the way. The final threat was Sonny Forelli, who came to Vice City to take back control. Tommy responded by killing both Sonny and Lance after Lance betrayed him, wiping out the last people above him. But Tommy didn't arrive in Vice City clean. The Vice City Bureau of Investigation already had a file on him, and his conviction in Liberty City had followed him. But what he did in Vice City buried that file under a new one. And while the VCPD made multiple attempts to track him down and catch him, he escaped every single time. By the end, Tommy Vercetti didn't just survive Vice City, he owned it, turning a failed drug deal into full control of the city's criminal empire. But the one after him moved in silence, cutting through betrayal and survival with nothing but instinct and action. Number 6. Claude. Claude is one of the most mysterious figures in this entire list. With no last name, birth certificate, and confirmed history, in a world built on threats, deals, and negotiations, Claude operated entirely in silence. He first arrived in Liberty City with a partner named Catalina, and the plan was simply to rob a bank, split the money, and then disappear. He stormed the building, controlled civilians at gunpoint, extracted the cash, and fought through the police on their way out. However, during the escape, Catalina shot Claude and left him for dead. He was then arrested and loaded into a prison transport convoy.
Sorry, babe. I'm an ambitious girl. You're just small time.
The convoy was later ambushed by cartel forces, who killed several guards, but Claude escaped in the chaos alongside a man named 8-Ball, whom he partnered with, earning him a spot on the list of LCPD as an escaped convict. At first, the job stayed manageable. He worked with 8-Ball on demolition jobs, infiltrating restricted areas, planting bombs on cargo ships and vehicles, and detonating them remotely. But that quickly escalated when he moved into street enforcement under Luigi Gottarelli. Then it spread. Claude got pulled into gang conflicts that turned to open shootouts in public spaces, with casualties on both sides. What started as controlled jobs became constant violence. Under Salvatore, everything scaled further. The work shifted into coordinated hits, bombings, and large-scale attacks, with Claude operating as the main enforcer behind it all. Every operation added to the file the LCPD already had on him. By the end of Portland, they weren't just looking for an escaped convict, they were tracking one of the most dangerous men in the city. But the situation escalated even further when Salvatore tried to have him killed, forcing Claude to turn on him. He defected and responded by bombing facilities, hunting targets across the city, and wiping out anyone connected. He later returned for Salvatore, planting a bomb in his car and detonating it from a distance. One of Liberty City's most powerful mafia bosses was taken out instantly by Claude, with no warning and no chance to react. But sniping Salvatore didn't cool the heat. Looking for more work, Claude met Donald Love, who escalated things to a whole different level by making Claude collect smuggled packages out at sea. By the time his operations reached Shoreside Vale, the LCPD deployed everything. SWAT teams surrounded a warehouse in Pike Creek, and Claude deliberately drove a decoy van straight into their trap, triggering a 6-star response as every police unit and every enforcer in the city mobilized and chased one man through the streets for 3 straight hours. By the time his rampage reached its peak, the violence had spread across Liberty City. Warehouses, streets, and entire districts became active conflict zones, with Claude at the center of it all, cutting through everything in his path. The LCPD never caught him. Not once, as every pursuit ended the same way with Claude before an arrest could be made, leaving only damage behind and another failed report in the record. Claude had gone from a failed robbery to citywide destruction, leaving behind a trail of bombings, executions, and full-scale gang warfare. And through all of it, he never said a word. And while Claude's rise was built on silence, the next character returned to her fractured home and rebuilt everything through loyalty, struggle, and a city that refused to forget him. Number 7. Carl C.J. Johnson. Carl C.J. Johnson was born in Los Santos to Beverly Johnson and an unnamed father. When he got older, he left Los Santos to get away from everything it represented. However, destiny had something else written for him. After his mother's funeral, he ended up in San Andreas, but he eventually returned to Los Santos in 1992 and was immediately pulled into the criminal world. First, he was detained by corrupt officers Frank Tenpenny and Eddie Pulaski. Under threat of arrest and elimination, he was forced to carry out illegal tasks. These included intimidation of witnesses, disposal of evidence, and taking part in killings that protected the officer's control. At the same time, CJ reunited with his brother Sweet Johnson and became active in gang warfare, where he participated in drive-by shootings against rival gangs, primarily the Ballas. These attacks involved targeting groups in the street, opening fire from moving vehicles, and fleeing before police response, causing multiple deaths and increased territorial conflict across Los Santos. CJ also took part in direct assaults and drug operations. In one major incident, he stormed a crack house, engaging armed dealers inside confined spaces. Then came the Green Saber setup. Betrayed by people he trusted and arriving too late to stop it, CJ watched his brother get shot and his entire gang collapse. With Sweet arrested and the city lost, he was forced to run.
So you dragged me way across town to see what?
Just in time, ese. Take a good hard look over there.
So, some ballers hanging around a dope spot. So what?
Just watch, homie.
What the fuck? Oh, nah. Shit, Smoke, what you into?
Shh, that's it. Look at that ride.
That's the motherfucking Green Saber. Shh, Smoke? Crash making you sell us out? Moms!
Sorry, Issy. I heard a rumor and poked around. I didn't believe it myself, but...
Nah, you did the right thing. I owe you, C's.
That moment shifted everything. What started as survival turned into retaliation until he finally left the city, pairing up with another family member in crimes. And as he grew stronger, the scale increased. CJ carried out a military raid of Valle Ocultado, and he assaulted a National Guard depot. The operation resulted in numerous deaths and provided CJ with military-grade jetpacks. But it all ended with CJ dodging multiple missiles and successfully escaping a military pursuit, making him not only the most dangerous, but the most wanted criminal on the list of multiple law enforcement agencies. From there, he moved into San Fierro and began targeting larger criminal networks, working with Cesar Villalpando and taking out key players, which crippled entire operations across cities. By the time he returned to Los Santos, he built money, weapons, and connections. With that, he hunted down Big Smoke, chased Tenpenny through a city in chaos, and took the streets back through force. And with Tenpenny and Big Smoke gone, CJ turned his full attention to Los Santos, leading the Grove Street families in coordinated assaults across the city, reclaiming neighborhoods block by block through repeated shootouts and organized attacks. And while Carl CJ Johnson rose with loyalty and struggle, the next character didn't like to get his hands dirty. Number 8. Dmitry Rascalov. Dmitry Rascalov was born in the Soviet Union, a former associate of Mikhail Faustin, a volatile and unpredictable crime boss in Liberty City. But where Faustin ruled through fear and fury, Dmitry operated through patience, reading rooms and people. Initially as the second-in-command to Mikhail Faustin within the Russian mob before 2008, his job involved handling negotiations, debt collection, and internal disputes, managing sensitive situations in a way that reduced unnecessary attention and positioned himself for control within the organization. That approach defined how he used others. When Niko Bellic arrived, Dmitry pushed him into the most dangerous work, including executions, cleanups, unstable situations, keeping distance while using him to remove problems directly. As Faustin became more unstable, Dmitry made his move. He arranged for Niko to kill him, removing the boss without exposing himself. With that, Dmitry stepped into control, taking over the organization's operations without ever appearing as the one responsible. From there, he expanded fast, eventually establishing a connection with Ray Bulgarian, which pushed his operations beyond Liberty City into something larger and more organized. While his growing list of violent incidents and failed police pursuits kept him firmly on the most wanted list, but the turning point came during a heroin deal. Dmitry didn't just betray Niko, he planned his execution, placing armed men around the exchange and leaving him to be killed on the spot. Niko survived, and from that moment, everything escalated because he was out for revenge. Because of that, Dmitry shifted tactics by attacking Niko through pressure points instead of facing him directly. To kidnap Roman and attack safe houses, all attempts to wear Niko down without him ever stepping into the line of fire himself. Each attack added more violent cases to his file, pushed him higher in the most wanted list. As those attempts failed and Niko kept surviving, Dmitry escalated again, changing strategy once more. He arranges a high-value deal with Niko through a mediator, using it as a setup to eliminate him. But the plan backfired and Dmitry was killed instead. With Dmitry gone, the pressure that had built around him for years, including kidnappings, failed executions, and the constant escalation that had kept him on law enforcement's most wanted list, finally came to a sudden end, closing the case that had spiraled far beyond control. But as we move further up the iceberg, the focus shifts again, away from survival-level conflicts like this, and towards characters who started at the bottom, but eventually built enough power to take control of entire cities. Level 4. Empire Builders, War-Capable, Broad Reach. Number 9. Big Smoke. Melvin Harris, better known on the streets as Big Smoke, is a former member of the Grove Street families, a tight-knit gang in Los Santos. On the surface, Smoke is everything the neighborhood loved. Loud, warm, larger than life, but beneath the jokes and the orders, Big Smoke was running a different play entirely. While his oldest friends were fighting to keep Grove Street alive, Smoke was already thinking about what came after. He began making connections outside the gang, quietly laying the groundwork for a shift toward profit-driven crime while continuing to operate as a trusted member of the organization. The shift became clear when Smoke formed an alliance with Frank Tenpenny and the Crash Unit. In exchange for protection, he supported their efforts to destabilize rival gangs and flood Los Santos with drugs. Eventually, Smoke established a large-scale crack distribution network and ran it directly through Grove Street territory and the surrounding areas. Supply lines were coordinated, and as the operation spread, so did the damage. Addiction took hold, Instability followed, and the same gang he claimed loyalty to began collapsing from the inside under the weight of what he was feeding into it. And with Grove Street eventually out of the picture, Smoke consolidated power. He turned the Crack Palace into the central hub of his entire operation, running drug supply, distribution crews, and armed protection from one location that controlled multiple parts of Los Santos at once. Aligning himself with the Ballas, he began expanding crack distribution across Los Santos through their territory. The product flooded neighborhoods that Grove Street once controlled, and money flowed into Ballas' operations at a rate the families could not compete with. More cash meant more weapons, more recruits, and more influence. Grove Street did not lose ground through violence alone. It lost ground because Smoke was funding the people taking it, then extended his alliances to the Los Santos Vagos, creating a criminal network that spanned multiple gangs simultaneously. Drive-by shootings increased, and territorial wars spread across the city, with retaliatory killings becoming a constant. What's worse is how law enforcement couldn't contain what was happening, but a major reason for the rapid growth of his operation was his partnership with corrupt officer Frank Tenpenny in the crash unit. Through police corruption, Smoke received protection from investigations and raids. He also gained advance warning about police activity, allowing drug shipments and gang operations to continue with minimal interference while avoiding arrest. Every time law enforcement got close, he had already relocated. Big Smoke hid every ambition behind warmth, laughter, and a loyalty that was never real. But the next character is more open with his drive, desperate for respect in a city that constantly treats him like he comes second. Number 10. Lance Vance. Lance Vance entered the Vice City underworld as a small-time operator alongside his brother, moving goods, coordinating minor deals, and maintaining connections within the city's growing narcotics trade. The work was low-level, but the ambition behind it was not. Lance was driven by recognition and status, chasing visibility within the criminal hierarchy rather than building toward anything long-term. That path ended at the docks when a drug deal turned into an ambush. Armed attackers hit the operation, killed multiple participants, and Lance's brother died in the exchange. But Lance survived. From that point, measured growth stopped being objective, and revenge replaced it, along with the need to prove himself that overrode everything else. On his new path, he partnered with Tommy Vercetti, who was rebuilding after the same failed deal. Together, they found the people responsible for the ambush and removed them.
Oh, way to go, tough guy. Beat him to a pulp. That should make him real chatty.
You want some too?
Hey, chill. I want what you want, brother.
Oh, yeah? And what's that?
Your green and my dead brother's white lady. Unfortunately, you just silenced our lead.
Accidents happen. Get lost.
Hey, whoa. No need to go all Lone Ranger on my ass. The way I see it, we two hombres in a strange town. We need to watch each other's back.
My back's just fine, brother.
You sure about that? Here, take this. Follow me.
And as Tommy's influence grew, Lance became integrated into the growing empire. He coordinated deals, oversaw transport routes, and provided armed protection during exchanges, while helping keep shipments moving across the city. However, the deeper the operation expanded, the more Lance became tied to drug trafficking, armed activity, and the growing police pressure surrounding the organization. But once the organization stabilized, Tommy took primary control while Lance remained a right-hand man. The imbalance kept growing, and Lance began feeling the weight of it. Because of that, his behavior becomes erratic. Decisions become driven by frustration rather than strategy. The recognition he has been chasing since before the docks never materialized inside the Vercetti organization. He began reaching outside the organization, making contact with rival groups and passing information in exchange for a way up that Tommy Vercetti never gave him. That eventually led to the betrayal. He aligned with Sonny Forelli during the final phase of operations and helped plan the attack on the Vercetti organization, giving access and supporting the assault in an attempt to take control.
But at least someone in your chicken shit organization knows how to do business. Isn't that right, Lance?
Sorry, Tommy, this is Vice City. This is business.
You sold us out.
No, I sold you out, Tommy. I sold you out. The real cash is upstairs in the safe.
The attack failed, and Lance stayed in the middle of the conflict he helped create, ending a violent run that had already tied his name to trafficking, organized attacks, and one of the most heavily targeted criminal operations in Vice City. Lance chased respect he could never quite hold on to, burning out in a city that always made him feel second. However, the next character in the list never needed the spotlight. Number 11. Luis Fernando Lopez. Luis Fernando Lopez was born in Liberty City and is a former member of the Northwood Dominican drug dealers, but his life took a completely different turn after meeting gay Tony Prince, a nightclub entrepreneur in Liberty City and the owner of Masonette 9 and Hercules, who became his employer. At first, the work involved debt enforcement. Louise tracked down people who owed the club's money, using threats and violence when needed, all to keep Tony's control intact through force. But things escalated when a drug deal connected to the clubs collapsed into a firefight. Louise arrived to oversee the exchange, and the situation quickly turned violent, forcing him to kill everyone involved and secure the area himself. And as Tony's financial problems kept getting worse, his connections became more dangerous, which pulled Louise deeper into increasingly high-risk operations that started drawing attention across Liberty City. That shift became clear when he began working with Yusuf Amir. A yacht theft turned into a full firefight at sea, with Louise clearing armed security and completing the job. Under Tony, rival clubs were attacked directly with fire set, venues shot up, and properties destroyed.
I'm the real deal, I'm the real thing.
Sure, bro, sure.
So what do you say? You gonna help me out? Tony says you can handle yourself.
Maybe, man. What do you need?
Then the diamond deal pushed everything into the open. A major exchange at a city museum brought multiple criminal groups together, and when it collapsed, it turned into a large-scale shootout with civilians caught in the middle. Luis fought through it and survived, but from that point on, he was tied to every faction chasing those diamonds. The Russian mob, the Triads, and the Pegorino family. Each encounter added more violence and more visibility.
Oh, rest of you motherfuckers want to die? Do something stupid, okay? Go!
Just get the shit, man! Come on!
At the same time, Tony's debts kept creating new problems, and Luis kept resolving them through force. The longer he stayed under Tony's wings, the worse it became. Luis stopped a moving subway train carrying heroin, climbed underground fire, and fought through the guards to take the shipment. Soon after, he boarded a private jet in the air, killed the security on board, and took control of the plane. But then, multiple major crimes across Liberty City were connected to him, and the city felt it. When Masonette was attacked, Luis tracked down and killed those responsible. Because of that, Bahama Mamas turned into a constant fight, with different groups trying to take over and being shot down each time. When Tony was kidnapped, Luis tracked the captors, stormed the building, and killed everyone inside to get him back. That led him to Ray Bulgarian. And the chase ended with Luis killing him after several armed encounters. By the end, Luis was tied to public shootouts, hijacked transport, armed attacks, and large fights across the city. He kept moving from one job to the next, not backing down as more violent incidents across the city became tied to him, while still avoiding arrest and continuing the same level of violent work. He didn't build the empire himself, but he carried out the actions that kept it running. And that brings us to someone even more feared, a man who wanted to protect the Brotherhood. And where Luis served someone else's empire, this one fought to protect his own. Number 12. Johnny Klebitz. Johnny Klebitz never wanted to be the most dangerous man in the room. Instead, he wanted to hold his club together and protect something that was already falling apart. But the problem was that doing all of that required him to become exactly the kind of man he was trying to avoid. He started up as a member of the Lost MC Bike Club, a place notorious for assaults, intimidation, and killings carried out to maintain the gang's authority across Liberty City. Johnny organized and participated in operations that kept rivals in line and ensured the Lost position held. Violence was routine, used as a tool to hold everything together. And Billy Gray, the leader of the Lost MC, got out of prison and immediately made everything worse. Johnny helped arrange the ambush that allowed Billy to escape during a prison transfer, but the convoy was intercepted on the road and the situation turned into a large-scale shootout with law enforcement. Johnny fought through multiple officers with automatic weapons, cleared the resistance, and got Billy out, leaving several people dead and bringing heavy police attention onto the gang. From there, Billy restarted a war with the Angels of Death. A heroin deal turned into an ambush. The Lost were forced straight into fighting just to survive. Johnny led the response, moving drugs and protecting shipments with weapons. The drug trade kept the gang running, but every job added more violence linked back to him.
Billy, I just don't see how we have a choice, man.
I have a choice. I'm free. I'm not a slave. I have a choice. Jim, I love you, man, but since you've hit middle age, you really lost something.
Yeah, and since you've been strung out on this shit, you've lost something. You fucking mind.
Easy, Jim. Who the f you speaking to, huh? Hey, what's up? I'm just trying to explain to our friend here that possession is 9/10 of the law. We should make the Slopes pay us back.
Billy, I got Chad on the phone.
Pay us back for what? Look, we have a business opportunity here, Johnny. I think a guy like you should be pleased.
Yeah, but Jim says there's some problem. There is. That H we stole belonged to the Chinese. The deadbeats told him we got it and they want it back.
However, Billy's instability kept pushing the club deeper into danger, and his reckless decisions started getting members killed. As pressure inside the gang grew, Johnny discovered that their own clubhouse had been compromised, which forced him to lead an armed assault on the location to eliminate the threat before the club collapsed completely.
Hey, watch your mouth! Tell him!
Really? Get my bike! What am I, your f***ing dog?
Jim, start up the bike.
Whoa! No! 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 No!
Yes.
Thank you!
No problem, old man.
As the conflict kept spreading, Johnny was pulled into a massive city shootout involving multiple criminal groups. He survived the gunfight, but it added another major violent incident to the growing list already tied to his name. Johnny also became involved in moving illegal weapons through the gang, giving the Lost heavier firepower for more attacks and retaliations. To keep the club funded, he later helped hijack trucks carrying drugs and valuable cargo, stopping them on the road and taking the shipments by force. That situation eventually spiraled into a direct conflict with Billy himself. After Billy's actions pushed the gang close to collapse, Johnny tracked him to a prison facility, broke inside and killed him directly, ending the internal war inside the Lost.
You won't find salvation here, my friend. It's too late for that.
I brought you in, Johnny boy.
Checkmate, dude. Come on, get it over with.
Do it! I'm doing it!
What? You waiting for a speech or something?
Come on!
Even after Billy's death, the violence connected to Johnny did not stop. He remained tied to the prison break, the gang war, weapons trafficking, hijackings, and repeated armed attacks across Liberty City, keeping him on the active wanted list as police continued building cases against him. Johnny bled for the Lost MC and fought to hold a brotherhood together that was falling apart. And while this level ends with city rulers and war-capable characters, the next one shifts into a different scale entirely, rising beyond city control into something even harder to contain. Level 3. Rising threat, real firepower, gang war capable. Number 13. Elizabeta Torres. Elizabeta Torres rises as one of Bohan's most established narcotics distributors, building her position out of South Bohan through reliable street connections, controlled stash locations, and steady supply routes. But between 2007 and 2008, the growth accelerated. Distribution expanded across multiple neighborhoods in Bohan and surrounding districts. Cocaine and other narcotics moved through smaller gangs and independent crews, with her apartment and surrounding network functioning as a central point for drug circulation across the area. The operation was not subtle, but it was structured, and for a period, it held. But as LCPD attention intensified, Elizabeta's response was paranoia rather than adaptation. She constantly changed stash houses, rotated associates, and timed access to the operation. The fear driving these decisions began affecting her judgment before it affected anything else. And as an attempt to reinforce control, she turned to Niko Bellic for violent enforcement work, relying on him to handle protection, recover stolen narcotics, and remove threats. Over time, that reliance changed how the entire operation functioned.
So, tough guy, you know about this business?
I know about protection. What do you need?
I need someone no one knows to oversee a deal I'm not sure about.
Getting back on track in the criminal world meant being high on law enforcement radar. And Elizabeta stopped distinguishing between real threats and perceived ones, and began acting against people inside her own circle based on suspicion rather than evidence, which weakened the trust holding the operation together.
It's all about, man.
Manny.
Now, word up, bitch. You better stop slinging that shit on my streets, yo. We don't want it anymore. Hey, OJ, you catching this?
Rolling.
This Manny, for fuck's
The
sake!
streets have spoken. Now leave my people alone. Yo, Niko, what are you doing here?
I am not in the mood for this right now!
As a result, associates began pulling away, and supply chains weakened, not only because of police attention, but because Elizabeta herself had become unpredictable. In the end, the operation collapsed, leaving her fully exposed as a high-priority, most wanted target linked to a broken drug network. Elizabeta ruled through fear and reputation, a woman who saw the ending coming and couldn't stop it. And while the next character is low on the list, he's known for being high on threat, operating with no reputation, history, or face anyone was supposed to remember. Number 14. Simon Nashley. Nashley operated out of Pier 45 in Fish Market, South Algonquin, running racketeering operations connected to the Angels of Death criminal network in Liberty City. He was involved in organized extraction of money from businesses and individuals through intimidation, threats, and violence applied consistently enough that people stopped resisting and start paying. But the LCPD's charge of racketeering only showed what investigators could prove. Behind it was a larger criminal network where businesses paid because they already knew what happened if they refused. Nationally is eventually tracked down and killed by Niko Bellic as part of the LCPD's most wanted operation. His file is marked deceased in the department's database shortly after. He wasn't the biggest figure in Liberty City's criminal landscape, but inside the Angels of Death's operation, he was exactly the kind of man that kept the system running so well that he was dangerous enough to be placed on the LCPD's most wanted list. And with Simon removed from the picture, law enforcement shifted its focus to the next name already starting to surface in Vice City. Number 15. Victor Vance. Victor Vance entered Vice City's criminal world not through ambition, but through circumstance. Before 1984, he served as a U.S. Army soldier, with his focus directed toward financial support for his family and his brother Lance. Small off-the-book tasks supplemented what the military provided, and the involvement stayed limited, driven more by need than criminal intent. That structure collapsed when Victor was discharged under dishonorable circumstances tied to drug-related allegations within his unit. The military provided stability, institutional backing, and a degree of protection, but the discharge removed all of it, leaving him in Vice City's underground economy with no support and no legal way forward.
Corporal Vance, würden Sie mir bitte erklären, warum Sie Marihuana unter Ihrem Bett versteckt haben? Und wer zum Teufel ist das? Hey, Kumpel. Für Gruppen verlange ich mehr. Du hast eine auf den Stützpunkt gebracht. Hast du denn keine Scham, Junge? Bist du ein Vollidiot? Ist das alles... Broken. Du bist hier raus, Soldat. Du bist eine Schande.
To make ends meet, he started at the bottom with low-level drug running and protection work. Small shipments removed, security was provided during minor deals, and connections built gradually within the city's narcotics and arms markets. At this stage, Victor still tried to draw a line, limiting violence and treating the work as temporary survival rather than a permanent criminal path. That control held for a while. However, that period ended when Lance came into the picture. His impulsive and unstable antics pulled Victor into progressively more dangerous situations, exposing him to higher-level operations connected to Vice City's expanding drug trade. Between 1984 and 1986, Victor became fully integrated into large-scale trafficking networks. He handled logistics, coordinated transport routes, and provided armed protection for shipments moving through the city, linking him to major suppliers and expanding his influence. But his name growth also meant his name started appearing in more police reports tied to armed activity, drug trafficking, and organized crime. Even then, he still tried to avoid unnecessary violence. The pressure from all sides kept pushing him deeper into the system, while trust around him kept breaking down. But the end came during a major drug deal in 1986. The exchange collapsed into violence. Victor was caught in the shootout and killed during the chaos, ending his rise through the city's criminal world. Victor started trying to survive in a system that slowly pulled him into deeper crime, and by the time it was over, he had already become one of Vice City's most wanted linked figures through a chain of escalating pressure he could no longer escape.
Okay, that's them in the chopper. All right, here's the deal. They want a straight exchange on open ground. All right? Okay, stay tight. Let's go.
Got it? 100% pure grade A Colombian, my friend. Let me see it. The greens? 10s and 20s. Used. I think we have a deal, my friend. Oh, shit! Come on, get out of here! Drive!
But as his story came to an end, attention shifted away from major network players and toward smaller figures whose records are still serious enough to raise alarms. Number 16. Antonio Rivet entered Vice City's underworld by choice, using legitimate trade businesses as cover while building connections with dock workers and corrupt port officials across the city's shipping network. Like others pulled into crime by pressure or survival, he planned his way into it carefully and on his own terms. From the beginning, his focus was logistics, drugs, weapons, and contraband moved through Vice City's ports under the cover of shell businesses and distribution routes he controlled himself. He became a key middleman between suppliers and street dealers, staying valuable to both sides while keeping himself out of sight. His power came less from violence and more from controlling movement. Between 1984 and 1985, he strengthened his position through alliances with the Mendez cartel, operating out of the city's southern supply routes, and with Ricardo Ruiz, a mid-level wholesaler coordinating distribution across Bohan-connected networks reaching into Vice City. Antonio handled negotiations, managed shipments, and reduced risk across both relationships while keeping himself away from any frontline violence. And the system worked because the city's criminal world was still divided enough for independent operators like him to survive without drawing major law enforcement attention. However, that changed quickly as Diego and Armando Mendez started taking control of Vice City's drug trade, absorbing independent networks and eliminating operators who resisted integration. Because of that, Antonio's neutral position, which once kept him safe, started becoming a weakness as police attention increased around the remaining networks. The pressure soon exposed problems inside his own operation. Corruption spread, shipments were leaked, and trusted contracts either disappeared or turned against him. Because his network relied more on organization than loyalty, it started falling apart once pressure from rivals and police kept growing. Rival groups then began intercepting shipments and exposing routes he had spent years building, pushing more attention onto his operation and moving him onto active most wanted watch lists. With his network weakened and his allies gone, Antonio lost control of the operation he had built and was eventually forced under the Mendez cartel's control. As the cartel completed its takeover of Vice City's drug trade, Antonio became expendable and was killed during the restructuring. Antonio built his operation in control of logistics and avoiding violence, but in the end, ultimately ran on force. Neither was enough to keep him off the most wanted radar, closing in around the city's criminal networks. And with that, we move on to the next level with figures who are still dangerous and heavily wanted, but operated on a smaller scale than the city-shaping players above them. Level 2. Organized, calculated, moderate threat. Number 17. Billy Gray. Billy Gray returned to Liberty City after completing a court-ordered rehabilitation program and immediately reclaimed leadership of the Lost MC. The stability Johnny Klebitz had built during his absence was removed at once, as Billy pushed the gang back into violent, high-risk activity from the moment he took control. That return triggered a rapid rise in conflict. Billy restarted the war with the Angels of Death. The sudden spike in armed attacks brought heavy retaliation from rival factions and immediate attention from law enforcement, pushing the Lost back into active most wanted monitoring. As pressure increased, Billy's decisions created constant clashes with both rival gangs and police units, and the gang's internal structure began breaking down as leadership shifted from coordination to pure aggression. Billy then escalated things further through kidnappings and hostage situations involving rival gang members, adding more violent incidents to the gang's growing police file and pushing them higher in Liberty City's most wanted radar.
Okay, we gonna be cool and do this thing?
So let me get this straight. You are here to sell us back our heroin. The heroin my cousin sweated over in order to bring to this country only to have it stolen.
Look, man, we can do business or go to war. It's your call.
In this country, they seem to be the same thing, you stupid pieces of
you.
Even after his arrest, instability continued. Billy spread distrust from prison and kept influencing members inside the gang, making it harder for the Lost to recover while law enforcement pressure kept building around them.
You set me up, Johnny! You set me up! Put your hands in the air. Now! Fuck you, Johnny! You're dead! Shut your goddamn mouth! Shut your mouth! Dead! Shut up!
By the end, Billy had become more than just the leader of a biker gang. Between the gang war, conflicts, kidnappings, and repeated violent escalations across Liberty City, he had fully earned his place as one of the city's most wanted figures. But where Billy burned everything down through chaos and reckless leadership, the next figure earned his place in the most wanted list in a different way. Through ambition so extreme, he convinced himself power was something he automatically deserved. Number 18. Playboy X. Playboy X returned to Liberty City after serving time and moved away from street-level hustling, focusing instead on wealth, status, and influence to build himself into a higher-level operator tied to Liberty City's growing most wanted networks. That approach pulled him deeper into the drug trade, where he controlled territory through other people while keeping himself away from direct risk. The distance helped build his reputation and pushed him further into Liberty City's most wanted circles. To protect that position, he used hired violence. Niko Bellic was brought in to remove rivals and threats, allowing Playboy to stay clean while his enemies disappeared. That system worked, until Dwayne Forge returned from prison. Dwayne had once mentored Playboy, and his return threatened the image and authority Playboy had built for himself. The more Dwayne challenged that position, the more Playboy saw him as a problem that needed to be removed. He eventually ordered Dwayne's death, treating it like business, but the decision exposed his willingness to betray loyalty for power.
Dwayne is a killer.
I don't like this conversation.
Do you think that I do? But it's kill or be killed out there. You got a lunatic after you? Man, you dumb. Now I will give you a lot of money. Because see me? Now I ain't scared of no one. But a motherfucker says he's gonna kill me, and motherfucker's gonna die.
The decision ultimately backfired. Nico was turned against Playboy and carried out the assassination, ending the rise of another figure whose growing criminal influence, narcotics connections, and use of organized violence had fully earned him a place in the city's most wanted list.
It was you or Dwayne. I chose Dwayne.
I showed you the world, gangster. You don't control this shit.
Not such a big man now, are you?
Even if you kill me, you're gonna have this whole town after your ass.
You shouldn't have asked me to kill Dwayne, Playboy.
You could have been someone, Nico. I was an example to all the kids, man. You can't take that away from me.
You didn't change the game. The game changed you.
Playboy chased an image he could never truly become, and that pursuit of status and control eventually pushed him into Liberty City's most wanted radar, fully marking him as a most wanted criminal. But the next figure didn't need to chase anything. He was born into the real thing. Old blood, old grudges, and a life where being a most wanted criminal wasn't something he became, but something he grew up around. Number 19. Tony Cipriani. Tony Cipriani returned to Liberty City after a period in hiding, following a prior and immediately reconnected with Salvatore Leone. But re-entering the Leone crime family was not the difficult part. Rebuilding his standing within it required demonstrating that the time away changed nothing about his usefulness. To prove that, he got to work. Tony tracked individuals, isolated them, and eliminated them through direct armed engagement. Each king reinforced his position as a dependable operative and signaled to the family that he was back and functioning at full capacity. But as tensions rose, the assignments escalated. Tony became central to the conflict with the Sindaco crime family, participating in ambushes, retaliatory strikes, and coordinated attacks that pushed mafia warfare across Liberty City into open, ongoing conflict. Each operation increased violence across the city and added more weight to his growing most wanted file. The conflict reached its peak when Tony planted explosives throughout Fort Staunton. The blast destroyed a large part of the district, wiped out rival construction operations, and caused heavy casualties and damage. It was the complete removal of a rival base through mass destruction, instantly pushing law enforcement attention even higher. From there, his role expanded beyond mafia war into political and corporate targets. Officials and business figures were removed or pressured to secure Leone's control over key systems in the city, tightening his link to high-priority, most wanted criminal activity. Internal threats were handled the same way. Anyone who challenged Salvatore's authority was eliminated, and control inside the organization was maintained through constant fear and violence. His operations also extended into clashes with other criminal groups competing for territory, further spreading Leone influence while building a long record of major incidents tied directly to him in police investigations. By the time the campaign ended, the Leone family's position across Liberty City was stronger than before, but so was Tony's reputation and law enforcement records, firmly placed among the city's most wanted criminals due to sustained high-level violence and large-scale operations. But where Tony's world was built on old blood and loyalty, the next figure stepped into a different kind of most wanted path, one shaped by precision, discipline, and a strict code of honor the Western criminal world never fully understood, until it was already too late. Number 20. Sean Kikuchi. Sean Kikuchi was wanted in connection with a series of violent gang-related incidents across Algonquin that had left multiple individuals dead and several others critically injured. Unlike some shadow operators, Kikuchi was a frontline combatant and active participant in street-level gang warfare who had been identified by witnesses at the scenes of multiple shootings. Police considered him armed and extremely dangerous. Investigations linked him to a larger street gang network with heavy weapons access, and officers were instructed to treat him as a high-risk, most wanted criminal. But while Sean moved through the criminal world with discipline and a strict code that demanded respect, the next figure had none of that structure to rely on. He built everything from the ground up, step by step, until his name also began appearing in the same most wanted records. Number 21. Wong Li. Wong Li arrived in Liberty City carrying the Yujian sword, a symbol of triad leadership meant for his uncle Wu Li. Shortly after arriving, the sword was stolen, and he was left for dead. the attack stripped him of status before he had the chance to establish it, and recovering what was taken became his only goal. Without the sword, he was no longer recognized as a legitimate successor. It meant inheritance was gone, and the only way forward was through direct involvement in crime. Eventually, he was pulled into the triad structure under Wu Li, moving through drug deals, enforcement work, and recovery jobs while trying to rebuild his position and track down the stolen sword. Each step brought him deeper into the city's underground, and with it, more attention from law enforcement and growing most wanted ties linked to triad activity. As he got more involved, the work stopped being just about recovery. Shootouts, gang conflicts, and retaliation between groups became part of what he was caught up in, and his name started appearing more often in police investigations connected to organized crime. But the real shift came when it was discovered the sword wasn't stolen by some rather thief. It was someone from his inner circle. Feeling betrayed, Wong tracks down the person responsible and recovered the sword. And with the sword back in his possession and the eternal threat eliminated, Wong secures a dominant position within the triad hierarchy. In the end, Wong never really chose the world he found himself in, only just trying to survive inside it while chasing something he lost from the start. And along the way, his actions kept putting him deeper into the same most wanted system, building around everything tied to the city's criminal networks. But as we move further up the list, the focus shifts again. The names that follow are still present in most wanted files, still connected to violence and organized crime, but their stories move away from citywide influence and into more direct ground-level operations that law enforcement tracked in a different way. Level 1. Least Dangerous. Number 22. Derek McCreary. Derek McCreary returned to Liberty City after years abroad and reconnected with the McCreary crime network under his brother Gerald McCreary. He already had a background in armed robberies and heists with Irish criminal associates, and that history was enough to pull him back into the city's underground world. But that reputation started working against him almost immediately. Old contacts like Aiden O'Malley carried more risk than value, and the same history that built his name also kept drawing law enforcement attention back onto him. On top of that, Derek's drug addiction made everything worse. It affected his judgment, made him unreliable, and slowly broke down trust in situations that needed control. To deal with growing threats, Derek turned to Niko Bellic for targeted hits. Aiden O'Malley was the first major target, and Derek arranged the kill to remove a loose end from his past before he could come back to expose him.
Name Derek McCreary ring any bells? He's my brother.
Derek? But he ratted me out. He's the reason I ended up in that place to start with, the spineless...
So you thought you'd rat him out? This is the last sunset you're ever going to see. Enjoy it. Niko, send him packing.
He's a rat, Derek McCreary. Derek Mc...
It worked, but only for a moment. After that, his behavior shifted. He stopped solving problems and started reacting to them. Each decision created more instability, and his position weakened step by step. That instability eventually pulled him into conflict with his brother Francis McCreary. A high-ranking police officer, Francis's role made Derek vulnerable, and Derek's criminal life made Francis a threat. Both saw the other as a liability and both turned to Niko Bellic to remove it.
You stop it.
Stop?
Stop.
Kill your brother.
He's already dead. Just put him out of his misery.
Fuck you.
No, fuck you, pal. I'm gonna meet him in the Courtyard Park off Bismarck and Lancet. Deal with him. Make him a tragedy, not a disaster. Do it, or I will put you away. Oh, don't push me.
However, Niko took the contract on Derek and tracked him down, killing him with a single sniper shot in public. The hit ended his run instantly, closing out a figure already heavily tied to Liberty City's most wanted system before he could escalate further. But the next figure is another name that climbed the list in a similar way. Number 23. Marty Williams. Marty Williams operated in Bohan behind the cover of a small-time businessman while running criminal rackets underneath it, using the front as a shield while the real operation stayed hidden in plain sight. The center of it was a prostitution ring built entirely on intimidation and violence, where control was maintained through fear rather than organization, and every part of it depended on force to keep people in line. As time went on, Marina became the point where the operation started to break open, because her situation exposed the abuse and control happening inside Marty's network. That exposure slowly drew outside attention from both rival groups and law enforcement, placing his name deeper into most wanted criminal records connected to Bohan's underground activity. And as more people became aware of what was happening, his connections began to collapse. And even groups like the Lost MC distanced themselves completely. leaving him isolated and exposed. With his network falling apart, Victor Vance eventually tracked him down and killed him directly, ending the operation in a single confrontation. After his death, the entire structure he built through fear collapsed immediately, because without him, there was nothing holding it together, and everything tied to the operation broke down at once. Marty Williams hid his cruelty behind a small-town empire and a family man image, but once that control was removed, the collapse was instant. This file remained as another example of how quickly most wanted criminals fall when their structure disappears. However, the next figure never bothered with any cover at all. He was already known to law enforcement as part of an active most wanted criminal gang network, openly linked to violence across Liberty City. Number 24. Marty Boldenau. Marty Boldenau operated within Liberty City as a member of the Skinheads, already wanted by the LCPD for gang-related violence tied to ongoing most wanted criminal investigations, but he didn't really have structure behind him. His reputation came from direct violence and confrontation, where fear mattered more than organization, and most of the time, he stayed around a hideout behind Lenny's Fireproof Door Company, Mary Street in Actor, moving with a small group of yardies who were there more out of convenience than loyalty. At this point in Liberty City, Niko Bellic was already being used through criminal contracts as an outside enforcer, pulled into jobs involving high-risk, most wanted criminals who had been tracked through fixers and informant networks. When Marty's location was passed through that network, Niko moved in to handle it. Marty was already with his group when it happened, but they were not organized enough to deal with someone who had been sent specifically to take him down. He opened the fight with an RPG, trying to control distance and force pressure from range, but when Niko closed in, they switched to an assault rifle and kept firing instead of backing off. Still, it did not work. Niko pushed through and killed him, ending the encounter on the spot. With that case closed, attention shifted to the next target moving through Liberty City's most wanted system, someone operating at a much smaller level, but still caught in the same law enforcement network. Number 25. Alonzo Goralski. Alonzo Goralski was a Russian criminal operating in Liberty City in 2008, already listed in LCPD most wanted records for burglary and low-level organized crime. At some point, his name was passed along through criminal contacts who were dealing with people trying to clear out wanted targets in the city. And that is how Niko Bellic was brought into the situation. When Niko went after him, Goralski tried to escape immediately, fleeing in a car with an associate who fired back while they drove in an attempt to slow the pursuit. When the car stopped and he was forced out, he tried to defend himself with a pistol, but he never gained control of the situation. Niko caught him and killed him, ending the chase. Regardless, even as a small-time criminal, Goralski still ended up in Liberty City's most wanted records. Once his name was in that system, there was no real way back out. Across all cases, one thing is clear. These weren't just names in a list, as each of them created real, ongoing problems for Liberty City and the people trying to police it. Some brought constant violence, others smaller but persistent issues that kept resurfacing across the city. For law enforcement, it meant cases that never fully closed as long as those people were still active. For some, the most wanted label stuck because the situation never truly settled.